On September 26, 1983, the world ended. Or at least, it should have. Because on that night, a single computer error almost triggered a nuclear war that would have erased modern civilization in less than an hour. Most people have never heard of the incident. There were no explosions, no broadcasts, no panic speeches. Just one man, alone in a dark room, staring at a red screen that insisted the United States had launched a nuclear strike. But this isn't a story about missiles. It's a story about the systems humans build and how close they came to destroying us. It begins deep inside a Soviet bunker known as Serpukhov 15, the nerve center of the USSR's early warning system. A few months earlier, the world had nearly spiraled into chaos after the Soviet military shot down a civilian airliner, KAL-007. Tension between the superpowers was at boiling point. Both nations were poised for retaliation. Nerves were stretched thin. So when Stanislav Petrov, a 44-year-old duty officer, sat down to monitor the Soviet satellite network that night, he wasn't just watching screens. He was watching for the end of the world. 23 minutes after midnight, it came. A siren ripped through the bunker. Lights flashed red. On the main screen, a message appeared. Launch, U.S. Minuteman missile. Petrov felt his stomach drop. He knew what this meant. Soviet doctrine required an immediate response. If the U.S. had launched a nuclear missile, more would follow. The USSR only had minutes to fire back before its own silos were destroyed. This was the ultimate domino. Once the first piece fell, nothing could stop the chain reaction. Officers scrambled, phones rang, voices shouted orders. Then the screen flashed again. A second missile, then a third, then a fourth, then a fifth. 5 American nuclear missiles, according to Soviet satellites, were inbound. But something felt wrong. Petrov had been trained to analyze patterns, not panic. And this pattern made no sense. Why would the United States launch only 5 missiles? A real first strike would be hundreds, thousands, overwhelming the Soviets before they could retaliate. 5 was too small, too deliberate, too strange. But logic alone couldn't save him. Protocol required Petrov to report the launch immediately. Once he confirmed it, the Soviet command would respond with a full-scale nuclear retaliation. He had seconds to decide. Every second, the pressure mounted. The satellite alarm blared. Officers stared at him, waiting for the order. The computer insisted the attack was real. And Petrov? He said no. He reported it as a false alarm, with zero proof. Just intuition, experience, a feeling. If he was wrong, he would doom the Soviet Union. If he was right, he would save the world. Minutes passed, agonizing, silent minutes. No explosions, no impact, no missiles. Petrov was right. The entire alert had been caused by sunlight reflecting off high-altitude clouds, tricking the satellite sensors into reading missile launch. A glitch, a trick of physics, a nearly fatal flaw in a system meant to defend humanity. The world had almost ended not because of a missile, but because of a misinterpretation of a flicker of light in the sky. The Soviet Union buried the incident. Petrov's superiors reprimanded him for not following protocol. He wasn't rewarded, he wasn't thanked. He simply went home. A man who had saved the world and wasn't allowed to tell anyone. For decades, the event remained classified. Only after the Soviet Union fell did the truth leak into the world. What historians eventually concluded was chilling. This was the closest humanity has ever come to nuclear Armageddon. Closer than the Cuban Missile Crisis, closer than any battlefield standoff. Not because of politics, not because of war, but because of a malfunction. Because we build machines powerful enough to end us and trusted them too much. The Petrov incident isn't just a story about nuclear weapons. It's a story about how fragile our civilization truly is. A single sensor misreading, a single missed phone call, a single human being pushed to follow protocol instead of instinct. In 1983, the world survived because one man disobeyed orders. One human brain overruled a flawed machine. One moment of doubt saved billions of lives. Petrov died in 2017, quietly, alone in a Moscow apartment. But his decision on that night still echoes across history, because it forces us to ask a terrifying question. Next time the machines scream that the world is ending, will the right person be there to say no?